The heater malfunctioning and glitchy. I don't want to turn it on because I don't want it to, it was glitching out, it wouldn't start properly. So I'm going to look at it underneath, see if, so these are like speaker wires, and basically the deal should be depressed all the way, and everything looks okay there. That's weird. So now we'll see if it registers the common wire as well. Okay. Yep. Okay, the wiring has changed. So there we go. 24 volt common, heat, Y for cool, G for fan, and RC for power. Continue. So now we've got heating, cooling, fan, and hit continue. And heat type, we'll make sure we're on propane for my unit. Great, forced air, good, done. Okay, so now I can just verify that the heater should work now. Come on, buddy. It was lighting and then the fan not kicking in. Not sure we're out of the woods yet. I should have just turned just the fan on to test just the fan first. There it lit, but no fan. Yeah, and now it's kicking off. So I need to figure that out. So I turned it off at the thermostat. Now I'm gonna need to get into things. So the next thing was to verify I had propane, and I did. It's at 40. So after a bit of online research, I determined that it very well may be the flame sensor needs to be cleaned, but getting access to the flame sensor, I couldn't find any information on this particular Vexar heater. And so at first I looked at taking out this particular electrical connector. This is a strain relief, and it's used to protect the wiring as it passes through and keep it from being pulled and whatnot. This one is called a Heyco, H-E-Y-C-O. Takes a special tool to remove it. And this one, the flame sensor and the hot surface igniter pass through that area, but it takes a special tool to remove that. Looking at that further, I realized that probably wouldn't actually get me to the flame sensor, as the flame sensor is deeper inside. So I wound up having to take out the whole gas valve. And in hindsight, I would have disconnected the supply line to the gas valve. That's how I should have done it. That's how I'd recommend you do it. I would recommend hiring a professional to do this. This isn't something your average homeowner would want to tackle, but this is how I did it. Again, not the prescribed method for doing this, but that was how I did it. There's definitely a lot that can go wrong here, and again, would be better to take apart the gas supply line, to take that supply line off at the nut there. You don't want to kink that hose, you don't want to bend it back and forth and it get work hardened. The other thing is inside there's a hot surface igniter, and the hot surface igniter, you can't touch it, otherwise the oils from your fingers can get on it and it can burn it out very, very easily. There's a lot of parts that you don't want to bend, you don't want to kink. There's just a lot of factors. So again, definitely better to hire a professional. Even me, I probably should have hired somebody to do this, but this is how I did it, and I figured I'd share the journey because it's interesting. A drill can definitely speed things up, but nothing wrong really with taking your time to do something like this. Just want to make sure you set the screws somewhere where you're definitely not going to lose them. And again, if I had this to do over again, and who knows, I may in the future, I would definitely do it a little differently. I would disconnect that gas valve. I've got a light that's it's an automatic light, and it goes off after a while, so that was a little bit annoying, but yeah. And this would probably be easier with two people too, because one person can hold the gas valve and support it, or hold the deal, or you could just disconnect the wiring and pull the whole thing out, set it on a table and get things going. But again, this was just how I did it, not the recommended way. Better to hire a professional. and definitely there's a lot involved to be careful for. So as you can see, I did not have a green scrubber, but tore the green portion off of a 99-cent store sponge. Works perfect for this. It's a tip that can come in handy in the future. And you'll definitely want to take precaution. You don't want to touch anything. You don't want to touch especially the hot surface igniter. Here I'm sanding off the flame sensor with the green scrubber pad. The green scrubber pad has like tiny bits of metal in it that kind of work like sandpaper, so it works just right to clean something like this. You can also use a dollar bill, a couple other things, but that right below it is the hot surface igniter, and you don't want to touch it with your fingers. It's kind of charcoal colored directly below the green scrubber pad right now, and if you touch that, then you're going to need a new one. So I was getting a little closer than I'd like to there. But that's what it took to sand off this flame sensor. So the sensor senses heat as the unit is on, and it won't continue to the next cycle if it can't sense the heat. And so what's happened is mine, I've been running it about 4 or 5 years now, and the flame sensor just gets, it gets worn, it gets soot on it, or it gets a buildup on it that prevents it from transferring the power it needs to transfer for the unit to proceed to the next cycle. So anyway, sand it off and put it back in, and we'll be ready to go. There it is again. It would have been a little bit better to disconnect everything and disconnect the propane supply line, but this was how I did it. Again, I would not recommend it that way, as it can kink that hose and create a gas leak in that hose, and then you'll be in a mess. But this was my own unit. This was how I did it. I'm just showing you how I did it. Definitely was not the right way. You want to test it afterwards with soap bubbles and verify that you have no gas leak, no propane leak. Sure there's no leaks. That's good. Check it with some soap bubbles. Yeah, we should be able to fire it. Glowing. glowing but not igniting. Come on. Okay. So, what happened here is this here, disconnected here, and all that craziness. Okay. Load. Heat. Yeah. Should start to glow. There goes the glowing. And should ignite. Yes! Now the fan should kick on. That's the next thing. Come on, fan. Fan is not kicked on. That's not good. Shoot. The fan should have kicked on. Means I may need to turn it off and figure out why the fan is not kicking on. Furnace kicked on just fine. No fan. There it goes. Yes! All fixed. That was a crazy one.